A neighboring ruler once sent a queen a message so insulting, his own messenger was slapped unconscious for delivering it. This wasn't just a political misstep, it was a catastrophic failure to understand the woman who held the fate of an empire in her hands. Queen Tamar of Georgia remains a figure that history struggles to contain within a single label. Was she a devout saint, canonized by her own people while she still drew breath? Or was she a ruthless conqueror who expanded her kingdom through fire and sword? A generous patron who built monasteries, or a terrifying enemy who humiliated sultans? The truth, as it so often is with legends, is that these were not contradictions. They were the interlocking gears of a single formidable engine of power. Her piety fueled her certainty, her mercy calculated her reputation, and her brutality secured her legacy. To understand Tamar is to understand how a woman forged a golden age from the bloody politics of the 12th century. Born into the powerful Bagrationi dynasty around 1160, Tamar entered a world where lineage was destiny. Her family's claimed descent from the biblical King David wasn't just a proud family story, it was a masterstroke of political theology. In the deeply Christian kingdom of Georgia, this connection offered a divine legitimacy that bordered on the unassailable. It framed their rule not merely as a matter of blood, but of biblical prophecy. From childhood, Tamar was groomed within this narrative of sacred sovereignty. Yet, her path was not assured. The Georgian throne had never been permanently held by a woman. In 1178, her father, King George III, made a radical and strategic move to secure the succession. He crowned the teenage Tamar as his co-ruler, a living declaration of his will. But for Tamar, a crown was not enough. She needed unchallenged authority. Upon her father's death, she didn't merely accept the title of queen. In a breathtaking act of political rebranding, she declared herself the King of Kings. This was more than a title, it was a manifesto. It told every duke, every general, and every foreign ambassador that she would wield power with the unquestioned, absolute authority of a king. It was her first, and perhaps most brilliant power play, silencing doubt with semantics. However, a title alone cannot hold a kingdom. Powerful people inevitably attract challengers, and Tamar's court was no exception. The first major test came from a powerful noble named Kutlu Arslan. He led a faction that demanded the establishment of a council, the Karavi, which would share legislative power with the crown. This was a direct assault on her King of Kings authority, an attempt to dilute her power under the guise of tradition. Tamar's response was a masterclass in calibrated force. She did not initially order a mass arrest. Instead, she had Kutlu Arslan personally seized and imprisoned. To his followers, however, she offered a startling clemency. She simply ordered them to go home, to abandon their rebellious leader. This was strategic mercy. It isolated the ringleader while offering his supporters a graceful, face-saving exit. It demonstrated confidence, not weakness. But politics is often a game of misperception. The exiled nobles mistook her restraint for frailty. Emboldened, they regrouped and marched back, demanding their leader's release with renewed vigor. What happened next cemented Tamar's reputation for chilling, indirect power. She did not send a company of soldiers. She sent 2 noblewomen to negotiate. Imagine the scene. A band of armed, defiant men, confronted not by spears, but by the dignified presence of 2 women from their own aristocratic class. The historical records do not preserve their words, but the effect is starkly clear. The rebellion collapsed on the spot. The men fell to their knees, swearing oaths of eternal loyalty and obedience to the queen they had, moments before, intended to confront. The psychological victory was total. Kutlu Arslan was eventually released, but his political influence was annihilated. Chroniclers, reflecting the court's contempt, later dismissed him as a boy and a mule in Tamar's presence. She had broken his rebellion without a major battle, using perception and peerage as her weapons. Yet, the challenges to a queen were not only political, they were profoundly personal. Her first marriage was a disaster orchestrated by her court advisors, who saw a husband as a military asset rather as a partner for the queen. They chose Prince Yuri, the son of a fallen Russian prince, known for his handsome physique and his prowess as a soldier. On paper, he was a suitable match. In reality, Yuri was a deeply flawed consort. Contemporary accounts paint him as a drunkard, given to violent outbursts, and, most damningly for the stability of the realm, a growing and public lust for power that rivaled Tamar's own. To compound the humiliation, rumors persisted that Yuri had no interest in his wife, with whispers of his preference for men circulating through the court. Their marriage became a toxic, public spectacle. For a queen whose authority was tied to divine right and personal dignity, this was untenable. In an act of breathtaking boldness for the 12th century, the pious Tamar went before the conservative Orthodox Church leadership and demanded a divorce. Astonishingly, she persuaded them. This moment reveals perhaps her greatest skill, a charismatic diplomacy that could bend rigid institutions to her will. The church and the nobles agreed, and Yuri was exiled 800 miles away to Constantinople. But a humiliated prince with a claim is a dangerous thing. Yuri returned not once, but twice, to lead armed rebellions against her. Tamar, perhaps overly confident or seeking to appear magnanimous, pardoned him after the first failed coup, a decision she likely regretted. His second betrayal, however, opened the door for her destiny. It created the perfect crisis to justify her next, and most important, alliance. Enter David Sultan. A prince from the Ossetian line of the Bagrationi family, David was everything Yuri was not. A brilliant, disciplined military commander, fiercely loyal, and acutely aware that his power flowed through Tamar. Their marriage in 1189 was more than a union. It was the merger of crown and sword. David became Tamar's spasalar, the supreme commander, and their partnership was the engine of Georgian expansion. He soon delivered to Tamar a deeply personal victory. When the irreconcilable Yuri staged his final pathetic rebellion, it was David Sultan who led the army that crushed it, decisively and permanently. There is a poetic justice, a sweet fantasy, in the new husband defeating the old one, securing Tamar's throne, and avenging her personal humiliation in one decisive campaign. With her power consolidated at home and embodied in her partnership with David, Tamar's reign shifted from defense to glorious offense. She was no passive monarch. She rode with her armies, a figure of inspiration clad in armor, delivering rousing speeches before battle that chroniclers say filled her soldiers with a fervor to fight and die for her. But her vision extended beyond the battlefield. She was a patron on a monumental scale. Hearing that a monastery of Armenian monks had their quarters burned, she didn't just send funds for repair. She financed an entire upgrade, a new irrigation system, a mill, and expansive gardens. This was charity as infrastructure and soft power. However, when the Byzantine Emperor Alexios III Angelos brazenly confiscated the money she had sent to another religious house in his territory, her response shifted from generosity to fury. She did not send a diplomatic missive. She sent David and the army. The Georgian forces conquered the key provinces of Trebizond and Samtskhe, and in a brilliant geopolitical move, Tamar installed her loyal cousin, Alexios Komnenos, as ruler there. She turned an act of theft into an expansion of her network, creating a client state that extended Georgian influence deep into contested lands. This was the heartbeat of Georgia's golden age. The wealth flowing in from tribute and trade was not hoarded. Tamar enacted what we might now call a form of radical economic redistribution. She forgave the debts of the peasantry and systematically funneled state wealth to the lower classes. A contemporary observer captured the prosperity perfectly, noting, "The peasants were like nobles, the nobles like princes, and the princes like kings." Yet, alongside this enlightened policy was a progressive legal mind. She abolished the ghastly punishments common for the era: blinding, castration, and other forms of mutilation. She understood that her power was bolstered more by popular love than by popular fear. Her reign became a paradox that worked, a time of constant warfare that brought unprecedented internal peace and prosperity. It was this very success that provoked one of history's most famous insults. Sultan Sulayman Shah of the neighboring Muslim powers, watching Georgia's borders swell, decided to humble this woman ruler. His letter was a calculated piece of psychological warfare. It opened with a blanket insult. All women, it declared, were feeble of mind and unfit for command. It then demanded Tamar's immediate and total surrender. The final flourish was an ultimatum designed to degrade. She could become his wife if she converted to Islam, or his concubine if she did not. The chronicles report that the Georgian general who first read the letter was so incensed by its contents that he struck the Sultan's messenger, knocking him unconscious. When the recovered courier returned to his master with the news that Tamar would not surrender, the Sultan expected a written reply, perhaps a negotiation. What he received was an avalanche. Tamar rallied her nation. Her speech to her commanders and troops, preserved in the poetic epic, "The Knight in the Panther's Skin," is a masterpiece of defiant rhetoric, framing the coming war as a holy struggle to defend not just land, but dignity. Led by the unstoppable David Soslan, the Georgian army marched out, met the Sultan's forces, and obliterated them. They seized the key fortresses of Kars and Erzurum, expanding the empire to its greatest historical extent. Tamar's reply was not written in ink, but in territory and blood. Why answer a hateful letter when you can conquer the man who sent it? Her people, living through this era of military triumph, cultural flourishing, and just rule, revered her as something more than mortal. In an almost unprecedented act, the Georgian Orthodox Church declared her a living saint. But sainthood is not immortality. In 1213, at her summer palace in the fortress of Agorani, the 53-year-old queen was conducting state business when she was suddenly struck by a severe illness. There was no prolonged decline, no final victory. The engine of the Golden Age simply stopped. She was laid to rest with immense honor in the Gelati Monastery, a royal necropolis she herself had patronized. Yet, in death, she crafted one final, enduring mystery. Her specific gravesite within Gelati was somehow lost, or more likely, deliberately concealed. Was it to protect her remains from the Mongol invasions that would soon sweep the region? Or was it a final, spiritual act of humility from a queen who was both king and saint? For 8 centuries, scholars, pilgrims, and treasure hunters have searched. They have scrutinized every stone in the monastery complex. Her body has never been found. Perhaps it is fitting that Queen Tamar, a woman who defied every category and expectation, remains elusive. She is a powerful memory, a national myth, and a hidden grave, a legend that continues to refuse a simple ending. Her story is a testament to the complex truth that the most enduring power is often built from what others see as contradictions. If you are fascinated by historical figures who shattered the molds of their time, who wielded both prayer and sword to forge a legacy that lasts a millennium, then hit the like button right now. Share your thoughts on this incredible ruler in the comments below, and explore more stories of power, strategy, and human drama here on Wains of Thought.